Afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. AOE is very excited to announce that they have launched a diversity, equity, and inclusion practice group. Today, DEI practice group leader Kimberly Kayler is meeting with Brett Walsh, Executive Vice President of Resources for Graycor, and Tom Merritt, Regional Managing Director for Anser Advisory, both longtime AOE clients and leaders in the industry. Brett joined Graycor in 2011 and is responsible for delivering people programs in the areas of recruitment and selection, talent development, succession planning, retention, total rewards, organizational development, and employee engagement. He earned his undergraduate degree in business management, his master's degree in business administration, and his certified senior professional in human resources. Tom has more than 35 years of proven leadership experience in both the public and private sector and is locally recognized as a regional expert in public policy implementation, consensus building, and strategic planning. During his tenure, Tom has led change management activities and propelled both growth for the organization. Tom has earned a BA in political science and master's degree in public administration and a master's degree in public administration. Today's conversation will review the importance of benefits of diversity, challenges to developing a DEI culture, tips for engagement with employees and other members of your design build team, and more. Please feel free to put any questions in the chat. We will answer them at the end. And we're going to kick it off to Kimberly.
Wonderful. Thank you, Janice. And thank you, Brett and Tom. Both of your organizations are leaders in the industry and real happy to have you here with me today. Thank you and appreciate your time. I want to go ahead and dive right in. The first question I want to ask is how you are seeing DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, pop up in your organizations. For example, we've heard from many, they're seeing it show up in RFPs. Maybe their companies are bringing it forward. Brett, I'll jump over to you first to go ahead and tackle this one.
Yeah, I think like many employers, organizations, we're feeling it from multiple angles. I mean, I think we see it from our clients who expect more and they want to know specifically what we're doing, to move the needle on our efforts to, bring in more folks into the workplace and then allow those folks to advance their careers. And our clients, we're seeing it in the RFP process, whereas before it might be just tell us a little bit about it. Now it's tell us a lot about it. And there's just more information they want to hear. And so our clients are a big part of it, and employees expect more. They just want to know what we're doing. They're conscientious and they just, they care about this and it's part of our cultural fabric. So it just makes more sense. And we're just being way more intentional with it than we may have been in the past. So just more deliberate, more intentional.
Fantastic. Thank you. Tom, what about you?
Well, it's important. Our focus initially was on just the need to continue to attract qualified people. And we're in the construction engineering world, and there just doesn't seem to be enough people to fill the needs that we have. And so it's always been trying to make a workplace that's great for prospective employees and current employees to stay in. And then I think more recently there's been a movement to re-examine and understand the foundation and the values of our relationships in the community and in our workplace. And so DEI has become kind of on the forefront of some of the activities that we're doing from a corporate standpoint.
Wonderful. Tom, I'll throw this one to you first. Why is diversity important for your organization?
Well, I don't know. There's a lot of analogies. It's kind of like cooking. You add a lot of different spices that kind of makes things better. But I really think what we do. We are creative. We're innovative. We try to find solutions to our clients' problems. And I think that a more diverse work team, a more diverse workforce, you're looking at problems with a different lens. And so I think we're more effective in problem solving because we're just looking at it through a more diverse lens. And to Brett's point, a lot of our clients are looking to us to show implementation of diversity and equity in our workplaces, because we're trying to. We do a lot of work for public agencies, and so we try to have the same look of our clients, and so it's important to have a diverse group of folks who can work for our clients. So.
Wonderful. Brett, I know you serve both public and private enterprises. Is that correct?
Yeah, a little
Okay.
bit. Yeah, mostly
So-
private, but yeah.
Okay. So your answer, why is diversity important?
Well, I mean, I think, Graycor's value system is pretty clear about just, we've always had kind of a stated value of family, where it's our family is made up of individuals with diverse backgrounds, talents, and interests, and otherwise. And we've long kind of sought to embrace those differences. And the reality is that we could just do more. We also value continuous improvement. And right now we see just a huge opportunity to do more to make our workforce more diverse and our company way more inclusive, so that we have creative solutions, and that we have a workforce that, is reflects the diversity of the different clients and communities where we live and work. So, I mean, those are some of the main, the other is just, frankly speaking, I think it's the right and ethical thing to do. But it's also, we just feel it's like the right business thing to do. I think we can, gain a source of competitive advantage with recruiting and developing folks from an untapped, different underrepresented minority groups. That everyone's trying to do that now, but every company needs to have and figure out their secret sauce and their pitch on why you should come spend your time here and work here. And so we're working hard on that. And we feel like if we do that right, we might be able to gain an advantage in the workplace.
That's a great jumping off point for talking about workforce development, which is something that we've talked about in the construction industry during my entire 25 years serving this industry. And I feel like we make a couple of steps forward in it, and we do wonderful programs, and then, we kind of backtrack and have those same conversations over and over again. And that's not to take away from some of the industry associations that are doing great work related to it. But Brett, maybe talk a little bit about workforce development and how DEI may be a solution.
Yeah, I think we try to do what we say and say what we do, and, and to keep that balanced. And so, I think one of our biggest focuses is going to be what gaps, and this is part of our council's charter and mission, is to identify any gaps in our recruiting, how we recruit, where we recruit, how we develop, barriers to advancement, barriers to learning. And really, we just may not see those things, and how our folks experience our workplace. We just might be missing something. We may have a blind spot, and we do a lot of engagement surveys. We ask these types of questions, but maybe we're not asking the right questions. And so it's really, we're starting internally. We're going to do a SWOT analysis of our organization and look for gaps. Where are there areas where we could do more to attract, retain, develop, and really unleash great people to go do great things? And, that to me is advancing those folks up through an organization, giving them opportunities for advancement, career development is the key. So we feel like it's all connected. It's just, the effort and focus around it needs to be more keen. So that's kind of where our efforts are going to lie.
So one of the things I really like about what you said, and Tom, you mentioned this as well, just in different words, it's just that the DEI is not simply a committee. It's part of your culture. It's part of your core values. And all the research shows that for DEI to be effective in an organization, it has to be. And there's nothing wrong with having a committee. That's great. But is it part of the fabric of your organization? So I appreciate you both commenting on that. Tom, back to you with regard to workforce development. How can DEI be a solution?
Well, I think it's really important to recognize that for a long time, our industry, the kind of professional consulting firm industry, has been built on a long-standing culture that basically favors white males. And we recognized to be more diverse and be more inclusive, we had to change that. We are really heavy into trying to identify engineers and people with engineering backgrounds. And the Society of Women Engineers indicated that about 30% of women who have engineering work in the engineering field leave the workplace because they just don't find that the city or the company's policies are favorable for the things they need, and that the environment just doesn't fit what they need to be nurtured and grow in the profession. So we've focused on recruiting and focused on the issues around women in engineering. But I think, again, we've missed a whole, admittedly, we've missed a whole segment of workforce development by just looking at women. And so we've expanded that to be more aware and to look at diversity in a much broader lens.
And if I may, just real quick, Kim, on that point, I mean, all the recruiting, all those things, you're not really going to move the needle in a really meaningful way if the culture that those folks actually experience is not a welcoming one. If they feel like an outsider or that they can't bring their full self to work. I mean, that's the part that we're really kind of trying to focus on is, can people bring their full self to work and reach their fullest potential? They're more engaged. They have better ideas. They want to speak up, creating the place. So it's all connected to make sure that our culture is a place where those folks want to come to work and stay to work, not that they come in and go, this is not what I signed up for, what I was expecting. So it's all connected.
Yeah, fantastic. And that's a great spot to build on that, Brett, just in terms of both of you commenting on how your organizations have built programs. I know both of you are actively engaged. So maybe just comment on how did you launch the program, share any lessons learned maybe so far?
Sure. I'll start.
Okay.
Brett. I think the most important starting point is to recognize that there's an issue and to be willing to explore solutions to a more diverse workplace. Anser has a pretty aggressive goal of getting our workforce up to 50% women and 40% minority in 3 years. And we're moving well in that direction. But again, identifying that there's from the top of the organization that this is going to be a mandate and we're going to make this work. And we've been encouraging dialogue and participation and created a diversity task force. And it was interesting. The starting point that I take away from that is you really have to give everyone a chance to share their experience, to share their concerns. But what we found was very effective is trying to establish some ground rules of everyone needs to listen sincerely, but not judgmentally, because a lot of times there's angst and pent up feelings. And as a white male, I sat in on the calls, and the experiences that people were sharing were certainly totally different than what my experience has been in the workplace. And we got into it, the more and more I listened, the more and more I began to feel guilty because, I didn't really have the same concerns or complaints that a lot of the employees had. And I realized the guiltier I felt, the quieter I got, and I kind of felt like I shrunk away a little bit. But one of our colleagues just pointed out that it's okay. We shouldn't label people, so you shouldn't get into labels and worry that. But we just need to listen. And again, listening sincerely and not judgmentally was kind of a mantra that we had, so that people would be more open and try to understand. And if you didn't quite understand something, it was okay to ask. And again, just don't judge, just listen and try to understand. So I found that very effective.
I really appreciate you sharing that. I mean, one of the things I took away from my training in DEI is just that diversity is hard. And equity inclusion is even harder. And, we're all going down this path and we're committed to it and we're talking about it, which is wonderful, but still the acknowledgement that this is hard stuff.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Brett, talk a little bit about any lessons learned that you have had thus far on the journey.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we have great people in our organization, and we ask for volunteers to come forward and give their best selves to this type of effort, and we got an overwhelming response. And so then it's just a matter of organizing it. And so since then, we've got a chairperson who's very passionate, enthusiastic about these types of things. And she was a previous member of our continuous improvement steering council. She's got experience bringing this stuff together, so very qualified to lead this group. And there's so much enthusiasm and excitement to participate. We've got to get organized with like separate, breaking down into teams. And our core key focuses are in the areas of like our culture and our employees is one, the communities where we live and work is another, and then our subcontractors, our vendors, and our suppliers another. bringing those folks along. And that's a different effort than how you might interact with the community, obviously. So really organizing those different groups with a keen focus and some key objectives, and letting smart people do smart things and giving them the runway to, to kind of come back to the executive team and say, like, this is what we would like to do and why. And they're so used to our culture, they know that there's a certain level of expectation of what are we hoping to accomplish, what's going to come of this, what are the results, what should we expect, and so trying to define those goals. But it's been fun so far. I mean, we've got people. This is a serious issue, and we got people who are really committed to it and passionate about it. But for us, it's always kind of a crawl, walk, run approach. Let's not get too far ahead of our skis. Let's small wins. Slow and steady is going to win this race. We're not trying to be somebody that we're not tomorrow, but we've got to build up a foundation here that we can build off of. And we're just super optimistic about the great people who've raised their hands and said, I want to participate. If for no other reason, it's funny, for no other reason than just to be, like a little bit of what Tom said, just to be more mindful of how they act and how they show up. And some of them for their kids are trying to better talk to their kids this is very important to them. And they just want to be a better, just show up better for their families as well. So it's got a lot of good, connective tissue to just, work and life, and people want to make a difference. So we're super enthusiastic about that.
Wonderful. Great takeaways there. And obviously one of the biggest takeaways is just the necessity of actually having a plan and approaching this like you would anything else,
Sure.
Being very strategic about it, which is great. So my final question is, any advice you may have for organizations that are still on the fence? We do know that there are some that are going to be mandated or be highly encouraged based on responding to an RFP to look at DEI. But for those that maybe are stumbling, how do I get started? Why should I get started? Any advice for them in terms of moving off center? You want to jump in first?
Sure. Well, I think in any organization, the mark of a good leader is somebody who's committed to improving their employees and making them and unlocking their potential to make them as successful as they can be. And in doing so, you're getting employees that are more engaged, you're retaining employees. And for most of our businesses, I think our employees are our greatest asset. So I think by embarking on a DEI initiative and trying to understand how you can improve on those roles, you're making the workplace a better place for everybody. Happy employees are more productive, maybe feel more inclined to share and create ideas. And so I think it's from a business standpoint of view, it just makes sense. And most businesses that I'm aware of are struggling to find qualified employees. And so by creating an environment where diversity is championed and ideas and thoughts can grow, I think it just works out well for the business, period.
Wonderful. Brett?
Yeah, I think just like anything, a commitment, not just support, but a commitment from, your senior leadership is important for something like this to take hold. I try to start with what is our current culture today and what do we want it to be? And, look for those ways, whether it's recruiting and developing, and just, this could solve a real problem with recruiting if we could do it right and we can figure it out. And seeking input from others. You don't have to, right? You're not starting from scratch. Not everybody has to trailblaze here. There's others who have been where you've been and they've figured it out. And so finding a network, connecting with that network, giving of yourself, and, and just seeking counsel from others who just maybe have learned those lessons. So again, for us, it's slow and steady. Crawl, walk, run is usually our approach with these types of things. But you got to get started somewhere. And for us, if for anybody who's in the construction space, I mean, it's kind of like, safety is a decent enough analogy. A long time ago, you'd get an RFP and like, do you have a safety program? Check the box, yes. Well, now it's tell us about your safety program in detail, behavioral based, the tools you use, how do you reinforce it? So this is coming for you. So like you don't really have a choice. So like whether you start today or you start tomorrow, this is a bit of our new reality. And so it's best to just get your head around that and just, again, reach out and network with good folks. You might make some progress pretty quickly, I would think.
I think that the safety analogy is a good one. And, as a little side note, an OSHA report that AGC released about a year ago actually showed that more diverse crews actually are safer and safety improves, the mindfulness, the engagement and all that. So there's some good wins and some good stories all around there for our industry.
It's very much connected. It's very much connected between just how I feel and I'm able to bring my full self to work to just the safety of the crew because you're focused. So yeah.
Fantastic. So before we dive into any questions from our viewers, I want to remind everybody that AOE does have a benchmark assessment tool. So if you are just jumping into DEI, we actually can help assess where you are and then help build out a roadmap for you in your journey. And that's one of the things that I think is real important for everyone listening to walk away from, that this is a journey. No matter where you're starting, and if the assessment says you're starting right here, that's great. You're building a journey, building a path here, and that's real important. And our resources are at aoeteamdei.com. So great resource for you as well. So Janice, any questions that have come in?
We do. We have one question from Amy Numbers. She asked, how are organizations responding to Juneteenth becoming a federal holiday?
Brett, go ahead.
Yeah, I can respond. I mean, because of the timing of how quickly it moved from its approval to its effectiveness, we didn't have a huge opportunity to respond. But this is one of those things where we anticipate that. Again, this is our council is going to weigh in on this, and they're going to, look at what other organizations are doing and make a recommendation on how we want to celebrate that holiday, or in the future, Martin Luther King Day, and whether that's a paid day off or maybe an opportunity for folks to spend their time doing paid volunteerism or whatever. We're going to listen to them based on just how our people feel about it and just what is. Some good ideas. There's a lot of good ideas outside our industry, inside our industry, that we just want to kind of gather all that in and, and what makes sense for us. So we're still evaluating that, but we anticipate something's going to happen there, and we look forward to that. So
great. Tom, anything you want to add?
Yeah, well, Anser Advisory is pretty proactive, and certainly we're of the right size to be able to move nimbly. And it was interesting. Our diversity task force had put together a series of recommendations, one of which was recognize employees' opportunities to celebrate MLK or Juneteenth. And while those recommendations haven't been finalized and forwarded to the executive leadership team, when we saw that, we discussed and the existing policies allow for employees to have days off for unnamed holidays. And so we were able to permit employees who chose to celebrate Juneteenth by taking a day off to do that. But it was interesting timing wise, but certainly interesting that was one of the recommendations of our task force.
Wonderful. Janice, any other questions come in?
No, none other. Actually, Dr. Kim Carter said, great session. I applaud your work.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for that. And Dr. Kim is actually one of our consultants that we work with, so high praise from her. So I want to thank those that participated today. We like to keep these short as fireside chats. Tom and Brett, very much appreciate you sharing your efforts with your organizations, and you really truly are setting the course for us in the industry. So we appreciate you sharing your expertise.
Thanks everyone for joining us. You can check out AOE's DEI website, like Kimberly said, at www.aoeteamdei.com. We ask everyone to save the date for July 14th, where Kimberly will be presenting her condensed version of her 90-minute workshop that she did at World of Concrete, Crisis Management and Communication. Registration details will come in the follow-up email to this. So
great.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.